Sup, my name is Rick for the TheYugiohCouncil, and today on the next meta, instead of stock market, because stock market can't be filmed, because my schedule is held today, we are talking about how can Konami make Noble Knights Tier 1. So, and it also basically is going to go, how can Konami sell this product to you? So there's going to be a lot of discussion on Noble Knights. So if you're not big on Noble Knights, well, maybe you want to stick around anyway, because maybe you'll find a reason to buy this, or reason not to buy the Noble Knight box set. I call it a box set because it reminds me of something that Magic the Gathering. Many of you hate, I know. Anyways, you pay $50. Here's your Noble Knight deck. You gotta give us $100 more to get the other essential cards, or you could buy singles. But if you're already invested in Noble Knights, you're not going to buy this. You're pretty much going to buy the max separate, or just the 3 new cards. That's pretty much it. You're not really going to spend the time after spending a good chunk of money getting the Noble Knight stuff. You know, you're not going to just like throw it out of the way and be like, well, I'm just going to use the new shit. You know, because it's the same thing, but they're all hollow. I can't really see a Noble Knight player buying the whole box unless they are a YouTuber or collector, or they're trying to sell this shit on eBay, the stuff they don't want. I don't know, I just don't see it. Now, the problem with it comes down to you and me. I don't play Noble Knights on a basis I kind of want to do, but at the same time I kind of want to don't. And the reason I say I kind of want to do, because I kind of want to see what they do with it. But what we're talking about here is a $150 investment just to play a deck that's not Tier 1. And for those of you who will argue, well, most tier decks cost $400, why are you complaining, Ryu? Well, I could build something called Chamber and then just win with it, and it only cost me like $50. Just saying. Hell, even reverse burn. I know how many of you hate burn. And yeah, that's playing solitaire, but it's to make a point. You want to have a deck that's going to be worth it to the players, right? So how do we do that? Super Polymerization is a threat in the matchup against Shed Dolls because it doesn't target, it sucks up your Exceed boss and makes their fusion. In the Satella Knight matchup, they have a fucking Divine Wrath / Infinity Barrier thing that just poops on you. In the Krillhoff matchup, you have Killer that just poops on you. Unless you can, well, they overpower it anyway, so kind of irrelevant. They really do. Noble Knights are like the one deck that can overpower it, even though they lose 500, they scarf at it. They're like, okay, 4,000 beat stick, drop to 35, still take out Killer. Just saying. And then they still have to deal with Burning Abyss, because Burning Abyss, God knows they get 4 fucking cards in their deck that can top, and Noble Knights get like 30, 40, and they can't top. That's kind of sad. Kind of sad. Fucking Konami. In all seriousness though, it's to make a point. Burning Abyss get 4 cards, they become a deck. They're going to have to contend with Burning Abyss, Krillhoffs, Satella Knights, and Shaddolls. That's not including anything that may randomly top, or anything considered rogue like Dragon Princess, or Infinities if they survive the list. So, you have all this to contend with, and you, Konami, want me to come here and say, oh, here, buy our shiny Noble Knight box set, $50 a pop. It's not Tier 1, but we want you to try it. The point is, though, what can Konami do to make it Tier 1? Let's start with the basics. They're not fully consistent. Yeah, I went there and said it. If you play Noble Knights, you know this. Reinforcements of the army to 3 would make a big push in the right direction, because it would give them the surge piece from our dart and put them towards Tier 1 status. It would put them near it. Now, the other thing that personally I feel Noble Knights would need a final push with, and many of you will hate me for saying this, I don't really care. I do, but I'm just saying. Here's the thing I feel Noble Knights fully freaking need for Konami to sell them to us. They need 2 searchers. They need a 3rd Rhoda, and they need a new Noble Knight search card that says search out a Noble Knight or Noble Knight equip card, add it to your hand. That gives a consistency boost. Noble Knight Brothers was pretty good, but it was pretty awful at the same time. Now, the reason, how can I say it's pretty good and pretty awful at the same time? it puts your setup back, but at the same time you can only do Noble Knights, and it's this thing that summons 3 monsters that you can only summon Noble Knights with, and it kind of sucks. Just kind of does. I mean, it's a big 2400 bulk. The pros of their matchups across the board. Let's switch gears and talk about that real quick. Against Quillahawks, they're going to overpower Killer. That's one big thing right there. But Quillahawks aren't just Killer. You know, they have everything else in the sun to run and different variations. Now, I'm expecting, personally, because I'm seeing people use Killer, I'm expecting Killer to be a thing over here, and then most people will be ready to deal with it, and then height dies down, and then start stopping like Shaddolls. I still feel Shaddolls will be relevant regardless after the ban list. That may just be me. And that's going to be the toughest matchup for Noble Knights. Because Midrash locks them out. Fuck. And there's also Satellar Knights, which have a Solemn Judgment that poops on the exceeds that you try to bring out with Noble Knights that Konami wants you to bring out, but then you can't because money. No, in all seriousness, you can't because they just stopped you. There's so much that Noble Knights have to contend with that even if Konami tried their damnedest, they may not be tier 1 at all. And there's still the unpredictable rogue status that may appear. So how are Noble Knights going to contend with all this? Many of you can argue a side deck that's proper, you know, will push them in the right direction. I don't know, it's kind of hard to side with them when you got to have like 15 equip cards in there. And that alone is no disrespect to the Noble Knights. One of the worst design things of this card game besides normal monsters. And when I say worst design, I'm not talking about, you know, how broken it is. I'm talking about how piss poor it is. And let's be honest here. Normals have gotten supports before, but they don't have like the final push. They're close to it. They really don't, like all normals in general. And it's the same thing with equipped spell cards. They're very, very vulnerable to being stopped because all you have to do is stop the monster. And that's not very hard in its own because you could just play shit like Karma Cut or Phoenix Wind Wind Blast or Bottomless or Warning or Compulse or D-Prison, and all this shit's gonna stop Noble Knights before they can even make their play. And D-Prison won't stop them before they make their play. I understand that. I'm just gonna correct myself there before anyone can. And the main problem is it breaks setup. When you break setup, it's harder for Noble Knights to set up, so it becomes a much easier matchup in that sense. I don't hate Noble Knights. I want to see them succeed. It would be nice to have another meta deck running around that wasn't like $400+ that, say, I guess, cheaper budgeter player who didn't want to spend $400 on Shaddolls, didn't like it, said, hey, I kind of like Noble Knights, this is so different than what we've had in the meta for a year, then it would be awesome. That's my standpoint. Biggest problem is, Konami has to sell it, and Konami's done a piss poor job in the past 2 years of selling them. Let's make them all secret rares, issue number 1, because usually it would be okay, but the main issue about them being secret rares is that they took up better spots, number 1. Number 2, they're a theme deck and they need certain cards to work, so meaning you had to track down a bunch of shit, and a lot of people couldn't get a bunch of shit, but this box set is a great way to basically hand you it, but you have to make it a selling point. And since Noble Knights are not that great, it's harder to make it as a selling point. So throughout this video, what have we done so far? Hard selling point, needs more support. Probably gonna not get everything it needs, that's okay, but it depends on the way it's gonna be built, the way people are gonna utilize these 3 new cards. Hell, they may say, hey look, let's use Rated and then freaking Soul Charge into Murdarn and quit. I'm down for that, that seems about legit. And then you can go level freaking, you can go Synchros. Synchros with Noble Knights. This is such a weird thing, even though they can do it with Lady of the Lake, but I'm talking about level 8 ones. But in all seriousness, if Konami does the support right, they could be tier 1. Easily tier 1. Burning Abyss have proven that more than once already. Just with 4 cards. They're still going to get at least 2 to 4 more cards in the next challengers. That's already been put in the press thing that says, hey, Burning Abyss is getting more support with this new card. I'm pretty sure they're not just going to throw 1 card in a set and say, well, you got everything you need to be tier 1 already. We're not going to give you a boost when everything else is getting a boost. Konami's not stupid. They know what they're doing to an extent. Keyword here, I said extent. is you can't please everyone. But the main thing to remember about Konami is they want your money. And if they want your money bad enough, they will turn Noble Knights from a mediocre deck into this deck of status, and then you will want it, because that's what they do in Konami land. Anyway, if you enjoyed this topic, leave a like. Let me know what you think Konami will do to either A, sell you it, or B, make the deck tier 1. If you don't like Noble Knights, that's perfectly cool too. But let me know down in the comments what you think they'll do to make the deck tier 1 fully. And finally, if you're new to the channel, subscribe if you haven't, because we do daily videos at least once per day. If not 2, most of the time it's 2, sometimes 3, sometimes even 4 or 5. And for all the things Yu-Gi-Oh! Wise, we are the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. I am Ryu for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. Thanks for watching. P.S. If you want to be on Subscriber Showcase at gmail.com. Send in your replays. And finally, if you want to be on Shoutout Sunday, which premieres this Sunday, well then all you gotta do is just let me know down in the comments and I handle the rest. Or our Facebook page at facebook.com/TheYugiohCouncil. And I will see you next video. Thanks for watching. Peace!